because I think they should.
The moments Newsnight really comes into its own are times of crisis, times like the Gulf War.
For me, the Gulf War was the most intense time, because there are moments in history, and Newsnight was covering history, where you just didn't know what was going to happen in 48 hours' time. And you essentially rolled with it.
Mission is to eject the Iraqi army out of Kuwait.
Tomahawks have already started to impact in the Baghdad area.
Women, children and old people killed by Allied warplanes in our name.
The offensive is progressing with dramatic success.
How can the Allies now accept any outcome less conclusive than the overthrow of Saddam Hussein himself?
The Iraqis are holding most of their best tank forces well back here in reserve.
There was criticism, though, wasn't there, in the Gulf War, that you were so excited by the gizmos. And I remember you almost used to wet your trousers when there was a prospect of a model helicopter flying over with the rotors turning over the sandpit.
All of journalism, as you know, is a very careful balance between putting something over as effectively and as vividly as you can and not going sort of toy town pictures.
Quite a lot of people in the military regarded the sandpit as being a gimmick that was somewhat in bad taste, that it was a thing that made it all look like a bit of a joke, a bit of a game, a bit Michael Bentine's potty time, when actually, you know, in a crisis like that, you are talking about pretty serious issues, life and death issues.
3 times the number of Iraqi tanks as there would be American, British and Saudi tanks in that salient there that they're building up in the middle of Kuwait.
I think we knew the sandpit was quite important when the Imperial War Museum rang up in the middle of the Gulf War and said, could they buy it afterwards?
The Newsnight sandpit is in the great tradition of battlefield models as used by commanders really way back, First World War and ever since then. As a central exhibit, it was great because visitors could come along, they recognised it from Newsnight, and they were able to do their own Peter Snow impersonations of talking their colleagues and friends who they were with through their interpretation of the Gulf War.
At the end of the Gulf War, there was that Saddam Hussein turned his guns on the Kurds. There was a mass exodus of Kurds, huge movement of population. And some reporting that you did from Kurdistan actually seemed to me changed government policy.
We seem to have been the first Westerners here and felt the blast of much pent-up bitterness.
Actually seeing the Kurds in the cold and the mud and the misery, and the kids dying, and little white wrapped bundles of children, babies being buried, actually had an impact on policy.
What these people cannot understand is why they're still sitting here and why so little aid is coming from outside.
He came across a mother and her children who spoke broken English, and she talked to him. And Charles, with his genius, realised he just had to be very quiet and let her talk.
Mr. George Bush is responsible for all this. He could destroy Saddam and his army, but he don't try. Saddam Hussein bombing, bomba, helicopters, destroyed us. I don't know. They saw this, but they don't talk. Why? We are human like you.
What she said was such an indictment of what we'd done and what we'd failed to do, that was the one piece of interview that went around the world, and I do think made a difference.
If that is true, and I don't know whether it's true or not, then it's the only time I can think of in 50 years of reporting where anything I have ever done actually made a difference. So you wanna be